Hey guys, it's your boy, Baldface8020, back again with another great commentary. So, yeah, I know I've been doing a lot of political stuff recently, and but like right now at least, the only thing I'm really super interested in is the government shutdown. I can't really, I mean, it's not that I can't think of about anything else, but I don't feel any drive to talk about anything else. As this issue gets resolved, then maybe I can do some other stuff, but that's where I'm in right now. So I predicted before the government shutdown that the polls would show that the public blamed Trump and the Republicans, but that it wouldn't matter. And so far, I think that's being borne out. The Democrats they seem confident. They seem to really believe that it's working for them. I go to their websites, and the rank and file thinks that they've got this in the bag. But like I said, they live in an alternate reality. They're in dream world. What they're looking at two things. They're looking at Trump's polls, which are Trump's popularity is okay. Like I said, it's not great, but it's okay. It's okay, and but they like to cherry pick their polls and make him seem less popular than he really is. And then they're looking at the polls showing that the public blames the Republicans. But like I said, and which they completely have forgotten, that the polls showed that the public blamed the Republicans in the 2017 shutdown too. Didn't make a difference because the polls are bullshit. The Democrats had to cave. I don't see any sign at all that the Republicans are in any danger of caving. They've already peeled off, even for the first vote, they had already peeled off 3 Democratic senators. And I don't think that they've lost any of them since then. So I don't see any. And as I've explained in the previous video, worst case scenario, the Republicans can nuke the filibuster to keep the government open. So even if it gets to a point where this really is hurting them, they've got an easy out. But the Democrat base is not just, they're more liberal even than they were in 2017, and they were pretty liberal then. And they really want to fight. Especially as Trump is really, cracking down on immigration in the big cities, cracking down on Antifa, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to keep this one going. I don't see an easy way out. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to cave at some point. But it's like I can't see a way it would happen. Now, granted, as I said before, I couldn't think of a way out for them in 2017 either. They just caved. So maybe that's going to happen now. Here they'll just cave out of nowhere. But I don't think the Trump and the Republicans are worried at all. They seem completely confident. They're happy with how everything's going. So, so far it's working out really well. I think we'll have to see, but right now it's hard to see how this doesn't go on for months. So there's that. So I would like to, use this time to start firing more government workers, and we haven't seen that so far. And I don't know what the plan is here, like what's the holdup, but hopefully by the end of the month we get some, mass government employee firings. And then on the other political stuff, they are, sending the National Guard to more cities. I don't care about the crime stuff because, like I said, I think it's better if cities have a lot of crime. But I do like the politics of the Democrats being associated with the pro-crime position. And I do care about getting ICE in there, to deport, as many people from the interior as possible. There's supposedly some talk about slashing refugee admissions down to 10% of what they already were. Great. And so, I mean, get that number as close to 0 as possible. The H-1Bs, I don't know. We're at least talking about reducing it. It's not clear if that's going to go through or not, but that's, it's a process. The thing is, like, we've done more on immigration so far this term much more so far on immigration this term than I expected to do in Trump's whole second 4 years. So it's a start, but the war against immigration is going to be a decades-long thing. You know, it's not like, we're never going to just, snap our fingers and end it. Like, look at Reagan in 1980 ran, like, one of the things he talked about was welfare reform. Welfare reform ended up not happening until the mid 90s, okay, when the country was much less polarized. So now we've got a super polarized country, and it could be a while. It could be like another 20 years before we really shut immigration down. You guys may have heard about the peace deal in the Middle East. Who knows if it's going to hold up or not? It is a defeat for Israel, but that was inevitable. Like, the IDF never had a plan to win this war, because the IDF just doesn't want to reconquer Gaza, and neither does Netanyahu, by the way. Because if you conquer Gaza, you're stuck there forever. There's no way to leave it. So, this way you at least, and Israel has two real strategic goals right now, or really ever since, one is to end the war, and two is to get the hostages out. The problem is Hamas was insisting that we're not going to release the hostages until you're out of every square inch of Gaza, which Israel wasn't going to agree to do. So, what Trump did by bombing Iran and working with Qatar and Turkey, was able to really put pressure on Hamas to just get to a point where they had to just be like, they had to accept, this, you get to stay in power. I mean, officially they don't, but they still will. You get to stay in power. You get all your terrorists back, but you have to release the prisoners, and you're not going to get like this final buffer zone. Israel's going to get to keep a buffer zone until you disarm, which is never. So, yeah, so, it's one of those things like, the pro-Palestinian people are, I've seen mixed reaction. I think some of them are like, oh, great, the genocide is over. Others are saying, well, Israel won't keep to this and stuff. Well, Israel is going to have to keep to it, because there's not going to be any. Once they have their hostages back, they have no incentive to keep the fighting going. It's just like, they'll always be sniping at each other, but there won't be like widespread war. There's no incentive for it, for Israel's perspective. Israel just wants this thing over with. But, like, it's a real recruitment tool. Like, the thing is, like, I've talked about how, the anti-Semitic right, and there's divisions on the right in these populist movements, especially here in America, but in Western countries, and these anti-immigrant movements are all being divided over the Israel stuff. Well, the Gaza thing was the best recruitment thing that the anti-Israel right had. It's kind of like you younger guys probably don't remember, but you actually saw like the first like real, like there was actually like a real burst of the anti-Semitic right in the aftermath of the Second Gulf War. And there was this guy, Ron Paul, he's Senator Rand Paul's father, who like the neo-Nazis all loved. And, but like what really, like where there was so much, the reason that they were able to gain some support, not really, but at least attention, was because the whole country was against the Iraq war. The whole country wanted out of the Iraq war. And like passionately so. So they were really able to sell the anti-Israel stuff. And then here, I wouldn't say that most people are passionately against ending the Gaza war. I don't think most people really care that much, but they don't want it to continue, and they definitely don't want to be involved in it. So now, like for the people on the right who are like, the left is going to hate Trump anyway, but the people on the right who are attacking Trump, well, they try to do this Epstein thing a little bit, but I don't think that's sticking. At least I don't know. It doesn't seem like most people care. I think the polls bear it out. But the issue they really had was this Gaza stuff, and now they've lost it. So I think they're going to be really unhappy about it. But we'll have to see. I'm just glad it's over, and the thing is, everybody, assuming that this goes through and it ends, you can be sure that I don't expect everybody to admit it, but everybody's going to recognize only Trump could have ended this war. You know, this war was going to go on forever if it wasn't for Trump's actions against Iran and his working with his diplomacy with Qatar and Turkey. So, and you know, as well as with Egypt and Saudi Arabia, but they already hated Hamas anyway, so that's not as impressive. Only Trump could have done this. And not everybody's going to admit it. Everybody's going to know it. So it's just, you know, the amount of success that this man has had over the last, you know, decade now is unprecedented, really, by anybody in world history. I've been saying it for a long time. I said this before he was even elected, that he is the greatest man in world history. It's not a moral thing. I'm not saying he's great on a moral level. He's shit. Okay? But in terms of just the ability to overcome, like just insurmountable odds, nobody in history has done what Trump did. That was the case before Trump even won the presidency. Just what he did in the primaries was that great. But like, and then, you know, like, and then since then, success, completely unprecedented success. You know, he's revolutionized this country and the world and the Republican Party. And, you know, hopefully there's more to come. But we'll see. I don't know if he's going to get the Nobel Peace Prize, but he certainly deserves it. That's all for now. See you in the next.